What's going on, everyone? AnubisArchangel here with my top 10 games I'm looking forward to in 2026. 2026 is looking to be another year with banger releases, even more than I have listed. But these are the games I'm personally looking forward to the most, and we won't make this a long intro. I'll cut right to the chase. Here are my top 10 games I'm looking forward to the most in 2026. Turn things off is a game that did recently get delayed, 007 First Light. Now, I grew up a big James Bond kid, from the old school games like GoldenEye to the movies. We haven't really had a memorable 007 games since the N64 days, so there's a lot of hope and hype around First Light, which is developed by the brains behind the Hitman game, so expectations are it should have good gameplay, but how will that story be is the question, and how will these delays impact the game? For the most part, it does look like it could be a very bland and vanilla game. You just go off the trailers that they have shown, the gameplay they have shown. But again, until we get our hands on the game itself, we could be in for a surprise with how good it can be. Tides of Annihilation is a fantasy action game reminding me of games like Devil May Cry with its combat, another game where Jennifer English is lending her voice for a main character. We don't know too much about the Tides of Annihilation story. Most of what we've seen has been just pure gameplay, which is good. It's good that this game just keeps coming out with gameplay, showing off the fighting mechanics, showing off boss fights and things like that. But we do want to see more of the game's story. You want to know if the game's story is worth it. Gameplay is king. But the story is a bore and uninteresting, we could lose interest in the game entirely. No matter how good the gameplay is, you still have to have a good story for a single player action game. This is a game that doesn't have an official release date outside of just being listed as 2026, so I wouldn't be shocked if this is a game that ended up getting delayed. And I do kind of point towards that being the fact that we just don't have a lot of information on anything outside of just seeing the game's combat and action. We need to see more about the story, more characters, more about the world building and things like that to fully understand what this game can be. But for what we do see of it, it does look like a very, very interesting game, a very good game from what we have seen of it. But I wouldn't be shocked at all if this game does end up getting hit with another delay. The first Code Vein game to me was a surprisingly good game. Didn't really have much hype or hope for it. It's just an anime Souls game that just looked meh. Seeing it as just Bandai Namco trying to find some kind of lightning in a bottle to replace what From Software left, because at that point, that time when Code Vein 1 came out, From Software was kind of just done with making Souls games. Ended up being a pretty solid game with good combat, a great soundtrack, and intriguing lore. Code Vein 2 will take what we enjoyed about the first game and do an even better job going forward, which means now expectations are high, because at the end of the day, when it comes to a video game, if your first game had no expectations to end up being good, it means your sequel, all of our eyes are now on it, and this time it has to deliver. Crimson Desert is a much anticipated game by developers of Black Desert Online, a game I've gotten a lot of feedback on after my review of it, pointing out the game is just an okay generic MMO with great combat and a very good character creator, but not much else going for it other than that. BDO makes a lot of money, and that has allowed Pearl Abyss to make Crimson Desert, which has suffered from delays in and of itself. Some of his gameplay videos have looked a little shaky, as in it looks like frame rate issues are going to be a thing for it, which hopefully by the time the game does release, it does get all that fixed. And much like Tides of Annihilation, this is a game where the jury is out on if it'll have a worthwhile story. Going back to BDO, that game's story is pretty much ass and non-existent, and they might as well not even say it has a story. It's there, I guess, but it's not any good. It's an awful story experience. Most of the time when it comes to BDO, you're just skipping through the dialogue just so you can get back to the game's combat, which is king for that game. Hopefully, when it comes to Crimson Desert, it does have an actual good story and isn't just a game that's going to try to live off its gameplay and you being a BDO fan to be successful. I have high hopes for it. I'm interested in it. It looks like a very good game, but again, my expectations are a little shaky, just as shaky as the game's frame rate looked in a lot of his gameplay videos. This next game will be higher for a lot of you, but for me it isn't that high, and I'd say it's the most overhyped game in gaming history. Grand Theft Auto 6. GTA 6 will be a good game. It will be a solid experience, there's no doubt about it. I've been playing GTA games since Vice City, even played the handheld games. Most of us are GTA fans, no doubt in it. But I'm not a biased gamer, nor am I driven by hype. My expectations for this game aren't high. I just expect it to be a decent game. I'm looking forward to it. That's why it's on this list. I'm looking forward to it a lot. That's why it's as high as it is on this list. But it's not my most anticipated game of 2026 like it's for a lot of gamers. I just see it as just being a game that's going to be good, be okay, just like GTA 5, have a very entertaining story for the most part. Nothing crazy, nothing great, nothing that's worth being called game of the year, things like that, but it will be a fun experience, especially when it comes to like the online aspect, if that's at launch or post launch. One of the more unexpected announcements last year was Control Resonant. Us Alan Wake universe fans expected something from Remedy, namely Control 2, and a return to playing as Jessie. We weren't expecting a game where we play as her brother David. And this game aims to give us a different gameplay feel than both Control and Alan Wake. Both of those games are rooted in third-person shooting elements, with Control being a more open with its third-person gameplay. Control Resonance has a bit more melee weapon style, with even more focus on a protagonist with powers. Yes, Jessie has powers, but it seems like David's powers are way more expanded. This could be just a very unique style of Remedy game that's more focused on having crazy powers and melee attacking than, you know, a gun that transforms, or using a flashlight as a weapon as you would in Alan Wake. I'm looking forward to this game a lot. I'm a big fan of Alan Wake, big fan of Remedy's games in general, a big fan of the first Control game. So I have a lot of expectations for this game. Hopefully it's good. There's a little bit of like fear that this game could be a little, you know, taking a step back story wise, but I'll hold out my judgment for the actual game release. Marvel video games that aren't made by Insomniac have not been doing very well. Some have had hype and been canceled, like the Black Panther game by EA. Some have been hyped, some have been announced and not seen since, like Bethesda and Arcane Studios' Blade. Marvel 1943 Rise of Hydra aims to give the Marvel name some W's in gaming. It's an action-adventure game where you play as Captain America, T'Chanda's Black Panther, aka T'Challa's grandfather, Gabe Jones, and Nanali. The latter two obviously being names that aren't as big as, say, Captain America or a Black Panther, but gives both, you know, Black Panther and Captain America another person who's, you know, in line with their views and where they come from. You know, Nanali being obviously from Wakanda, and Gabe Jones being someone who's also military like Captain America. Like Tides of Annihilation, there isn't a set release date, you know, for this game, just 2026, and this is a bit of a fear. Whenever you see a game that has, you know, just 2026 as a release date, it makes you believe that it's a game where they're not sure if it's going to be ready yet, which means it could be delayed. I would not be shocked if this game is delayed, but Marvel needs more games to succeed, not just live off its Insomniac with the Spider-Man games and the coming Wolverine game. Marvel needs other studios to have successful games. We need that Blade game to be good. We needed that Black Panther game from EA. We need more Marvel games to just be banger after we dealt with what was the Avengers game. Recently at the Developer Direct, we finally got some gameplay for Fable and a release date, which is this fall. A lot of eyes are on this game, not just because it's return of a cult classic like the Fable franchise has had troubled history since. It has been having a troubling history since 2010 between Fable 3's rocky reception and numerous canceled Fable games along the way. Fable aims its return to being a top-tier game in the RPG genre, and I'm here for it. I've played the previous 3 titles and even played the spiritual successor, you know, Knights of Amalur, and I have tried out some of those canceled Fable games as well. Playground Games is known for racing games, but they aim to show their talent is beyond just making Forza Horizon. They want you to see them as more than just a race car developer. They want to flex their muscle at being someone who's capable of making other games. And they're making a game that has a lot of expectations behind it and has a lot of weight on whether or not it succeeds or fails. Xbox as a brand needs this game to be a hit, needs this game to succeed in some way or another, be it just, you know, money or reviews. It needs to be a successful game. So there's a lot of, you know, hesitation and pressure on Playground Games when it comes to this title. And by the looks of the Developer Direct, they're all on board on taking in any kind of like criticism or, you know, pressure that comes along with the title of Fable. For me, I'm a Fable fan, so I'm looking forward to the game. Hopefully it's good. Hopefully we can finally, you know, put to rest, you know, the terror that has been, you know, the troubled history of Fable ever since the release of Fable 3. Leon Kennedy is back in Resident Evil Requiem, a game that aims to give the best of both worlds, both survival horror with Grace Ashcroft and third-person shooting action with Leon. Ever since the series went back to being a more horror than action-focused franchise with Resident Evil 7, Capcom has been hitting out the park with the RE/IP, including the remakes of Resident Evil 2 and 3 and Resident Evil Village. There has been some stumbles when it comes to like that what 4-player versus 8 versus 1 game, which wasn't bad, just no one really cared about it. But other than that, it's just been hit at the hit for Capcom when it comes to this IP, which, going back to Resident Evil Village, had us thinking there would be a new game featuring Rose, which now we know isn't the case. Resident Evil is one of my favorite franchises of all time, so best believe my expectations for this game are very, very high, which also means I'm likely to be more critical of the game. Again, I always say this when it comes to my videos, I'm not a biased person, so there's a high chance when it comes to a game I'm looking forward to that I might be more critical than, you know, give it praise. So I'm going to be picking at it more than someone who was just playing the game to play the game. I want to see things that are more likely to be like, all right, that doesn't fit what I look forward to in this game because I've been playing all these games for X amount of years, etc, etc, etc. Which, continuing on with the theme of my favorite games, last but not least, the game I'm looking forward to the most in 2026, Tomb Raider: Legacy of Atlantis. Legacy of Atlantis isn't a new entry into the legendary franchise, but a reimagining of the original 1996 game, getting improved graphics, visuals, and gameplay, as well as refresh of the story. For those that know me, you know Tomb Raider is one of the top 5 favorite franchises of all time in gaming, right there with Halo, Mass Effect, Dragon Age, and previously mentioned Resident Evil. The goal of this game is to refresh us gamers on the story and tightly knit the original game into the canon timeline, which, for those who don't know, there is an official canon for this franchise, and I'll run down what that canon is if you guys are interested. So that is the Survivor Trilogy, which are the 3 most recent games: Tomb Raider in 2013, Rise of Tomb Raider, and Shadow of Tomb Raider. Those are the prequels to this franchise. A lot of people call those the reboot games. They're not reboots, they are prequels, and that the developers themselves refer to them as the Survivor Trilogy. So if you want to be technical and it's about just those games, just refer to them as Survivor Trilogy or a prequel, because that's what they are. After those 3, then you have Legacy of Atlantis, which is what this game is just a reimagining of the first game. So you have the prequels, then the first game, and then it goes into like the usual order of Tomb Raider 2, 3, The Last Revelation, Chronicles, Angel of Darkness, Legends, Underworld, and then Catalyst. Catalyst being the newly announced Tomb Raider game that comes out next year. Much like Resident Evil, I'm going to be very critical of both those games, Catalyst and the reimagining of the first Tomb Raider game, which, again, that's a game that I've played my childhood. Haven't replayed it since I was a kid, but this will be my chance to get back into the original game. Now, those are my top 10 games looking forward to the most in 2026. There are plenty of other releases I have my eyes on, but these are the games that I care about the most for this year. Again, there are plenty of games coming out this year, plenty of games I'll be doing live streams of, reviews of, and just in general playing that aren't on this list, but these are the games I'm looking forward to the most. Hope you all enjoyed the video. I'll catch you guys on the next one. People in Archer. Y'all stay safe, become some others, free to be kind. I'll see you guys be here on YouTube or my live stream. Deuces.